Welcome to JDBD TV. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe and share.
Good evening from Gatwick, where just 5 minutes ago Air India Flight 171 had been scheduled to land. Instead, just moments after takeoff from Ahmedabad International Airport, the aircraft plummeted to the ground and burst into flames. At first, it seemed certain that all 242 passengers and crew had died. But remarkably, it has emerged that one man, a British citizen, survived the impact and the inferno that followed. He was one of 53 British passengers on board the flight. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner came down on a doctor's hostel in a densely populated residential area of the city. The pictures from the scene show parts of the fuselage embedded in a building. It's still not known what caused the flight to fail or indeed how many people may have died. Air India described it as a tragic accident. Here, the King said he was desperately shocked. The Prime Minister called it devastating. In just a moment, we will have the latest live from Ahmedabad. We'll also hear reaction from some of the Indian community in the UK, and we'll look at what may have caused the disaster. But first, our international editor, Emma Murphy, has the latest on the crash and a warning. Her report contains footage of the aircraft exploding, which you may well find upsetting.
Air India Flight 171 began taxiing down the runway at Ahmedabad Airport just after 9 a.m. British time. The 242 people on board prepared for their 9.5-hour flight to the UK. They should have landed at Gatwick around now, but seconds into their journey, the plane lost altitude. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, laden with fuel, exploded on impact just beyond the runway. From afar, the smoke pointed to a tragedy of huge magnitude. From close by, the scale of the devastation left little hope that anyone could have survived. The dead, not just those on board, but also those on the ground.
I was sitting at home and there was a loud noise. It felt like an earthquake. I came out and saw smoke and the crashed plane. There were bodies everywhere.
Amidst the wreckage, the bodies and the reminders of the earlier normality of the flight. Food trolleys, water bottles, the blanket of a traveller. It's thought amongst the dead there are at least 53 British nationals. Somehow one passenger did survive. Bishwash Ramesh from the Midlands had been in seat 11A. He said around 30 seconds into the flight he heard a bang. When he next opened his eyes, he was surrounded by his fellow passengers, all of whom were dead. He was pulled from the wreckage and hospitalised. His cousin told us his brother is still missing.
So we spoke to Bishwash just about half an hour ago. He was on bed. You could see his scars and he was literally bleeding at the moment. We tried basically telling him, make sure your willpower's there. And the words that came up of Bishwash's mouth was, look, I'm fine, but please find Ajay.
The Indian authorities say at least 290 people were killed. When Flight 171 fell from the sky, it landed on a medical hall of residents. The tail fin embedded in the side of the building. The dining room tells of the rush to escape. The meals abandoned as people ran for their lives, with the plane heading directly for them. This woman's son was in the building at the time. He rang her from the hospital to tell how he leapt from a second-floor window when he realised the plane was seconds from impact. As the Indian, British and Portuguese governments warned to prepare for significant loss of life, families arrived at nearby hospitals to try and find news of those they loved on the plane and on the ground. The British government has now sent teams to India.
Our hearts and our thoughts are absolutely with the friends and families of all those affected who are going to be absolutely devastated.
Investigators from around the world will now begin their work to establish how the Dreamliner came to crash, as those who mourn face the dreadful new reality of their lives. Emma Murphy, ITV News.
Well, let's get some more detail now about where exactly this happened. Ahmedabad is a huge city in the state of Gujarat, Western India, and it's a popular route for Gujaratis travelling between India and the UK. The flight took off from Ahmedabad International Airport at 1:39 p.m. local time. Fully laden with fuel, it crashed just seconds after takeoff into a densely populated residential area. ITV News journalist Sanjay Jha is in Ahmedabad for us this evening. Sanjay, what is the situation there where you are tonight?
Well, I'm just close by to the hospital where most of the bodies are being for the postmortem, and the authorities here have started the DNA sample. As you know, one of the worst air accidents in the recent time in India, and the government has officially announced more than 290 people have died. Unfortunate part of this accident was that it fell on a medical college hostel around the lunchtime, so there were lots of medical students, in that hall, and it has also affected them badly. There are reports of more than 25 medical students injured, and many of them have also died here. So it's a very, very bad situation here to the Gujarat. And Gujarat has a historical connection with the UK. It's the biggest diaspora in UK. And so most of these people were either based in London or Indians who are working in London. So there are lots of relatives who are distraught, and you can see them crying outside the hospital trying to find information about their dead ones. So it's a very, very unfortunate and tragic situation here in Ahmedabad.
Sanjay Jha in Ahmedabad, thank you. Well, here, the British Indian community have been supporting each other following today's tragic events as they anxiously await news. Prayers and services are being held at many mosques and temples. Here's Amy Lewis on how people are pulling together, even as they fear the worst. On days like this, it is silent contemplation that speaks the loudest. In prayer, they are remembering those who died and those left grieving.
It's been a very somber day. We heard the news coming out of India, and it's very devastating. So people are in a sort of vacuum, and so therefore they look to places like the temple to give them that strength and support.
Neasden in northwest London has the largest Hindu temple in Britain. The borough is home to a large Indian population. This evening, special prayers are going to be held here to remember those who have died. This is something that will be happening all over the country in the coming days. Indian national Vijay Rupani was one of those who tragically lost his life. In Leicester, they have been remembering a close friend.
Very sad news about very tragic accident, and we are really saddened. There are a lot of people from UK, all nationality.
At this temple in Crawley in West Sussex, they're still waiting to hear if they have lost loved ones.
As you can see, there's not many people who've turned up today because they're still trying to understand whether any of their family members were on board. We are at the airport, just boarding.
Before the plane took off, this couple spoke about their trip of a lifetime to India. Fingal and Jamie Greenlaw-Mead ran a wellness centre in London. But they, like many others, never made it home. Communities all across the country are feeling their loss. Amy Lewis, ITV News. It is the first time a Boeing 787 Dreamliner has crashed, and investigators are going to be looking at a wide range of possible causes. Our correspondent John Ray is in the studio with more details on what we know so far. John.
Mary, this catastrophe overtook Air India Flight 171 in just a few seconds. The investigation now underway will be painstaking. The aircraft was a state-of-the-art Boeing Dreamliner with an excellent safety record. As we've been hearing, the flight was cleared to take off from Ahmedabad Airport at 13:39 local time and climbed to 625 feet, just under 200 meters, when disaster struck. A mayday call was received by air traffic control, but thereafter there was no response. The aircraft crashed just beyond the airport perimeter into a doctor's hostel. So how did this happen? Well, this video offers crucial clues. Experts say that we've spoken to that there's no evidence here of a single engine failure. And in any case, the Dreamliner should have been able to continue its takeoff. So could both engines have failed? Perhaps from a double bird strike. That's been one early theory. But there was no smoke from the engines, and such incidents are extraordinarily rare. But experts say that the video appears to show something unexpected. The landing gear is still down when they expect it to be up at this point in the flight. And crucially, the flaps deployed along the wing to give the aircraft extra lift during takeoff seem to have been retracted. Just why is now a vital question.
It's very, very unusual for something like this to happen. And if in fact the flaps were not in the correct position, that's a pretty clear indication of the reason that it was sinking instead of climbing. Now, of course, then there becomes the issue of why that might be the case.
Now, definitive answers are likely to be contained in the aircraft's black box flight recorder, housed at the back of the aircraft, which survived the impact relatively intact. On it will be recorded every detail of a brief flight which ended with such appalling loss of life. Mary.
John, thank you.